Thank you. Please be seated. Welcome, everyone, and I would like to begin by reading a safety notice. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate council chambers to the nearest exit through the chamber doors, which are over there, and obey all instructions given by the clerk, who is seated in front of me. If assistance is required, the clerk will help you. Once you've evacuated the building, please gather in the front parking lot outside of the town hall. Also, the Town of Lincoln Committee and Council meetings are posted on our YouTube channel. I would like to thank the public for attending the meeting this evening, and I want to remind everyone of our rules of engagement. To please be respectful while others are speaking, and to please refrain from clapping. Delegations will have 5 minutes to speak and are asked to stay focused on the agenda item. At this time, I'll state the land acknowledgement. The Shononton people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recently, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon treaty territory. We would like to acknowledge the enduring resilience of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who call this territory home. I would like to acknowledge Deputy Mayor Diane Rinjima on my right. To my far right, Councillor Adam Russell, Councillor Tony Brunet, Councillor John Pachariva. On my left, Councillor Paul McPherson, Councillor Mike Mikulik, Councillor Lynn Timmers, and Councillor Greg Reimer. And seated in the back row are senior staff that are here this evening to support us on as we go through reports and meetings. We have one presentation this evening, and I want to speak a little bit about this. I would like to welcome Vineland Research and Innovation Center for being here this evening to announce and celebrate a formal signing of a memorandum of understanding focused on collaborating to support and advance the innovative commercialization and sustainability of horticulture in Lincoln and the surrounding region. The town's efforts to forge strategic partnerships continue with the signing of this memorandum of understanding with Vineland. As you all know, Lincoln has a robust agribusiness sector, and our recent economic development strategy mapping out our next 5 years highlighted a focus on agriculture and food and beverage production, emphasizing the important role horticulture plays in Lincoln. A collaboration such as this, where both organizations have a shared vision of sustainability in one of our most important sectors, will only enhance Lincoln's foothold in horticulture innovation and commercialization. When research, industry, and policymakers come together, it creates the necessary building blocks for success and prosperity. The opportunities are significant, and we look forward to the progression of the MOU and the fruits it will bear. And with that, council members and members of the public, I would like to introduce the team from Vineland, Dr. Tanya Humphrey, Chief Scientific Officer, and Dr. Darby McGrath, Research Scientist. Please come to the podium, and each of the doctors will have a few comments to make, and then Councillor Tony Brunet and I will be participating in the signing.
Okay, so thank you, Mayor Easton, Mike, and everyone else here. I'm very pleased to be here today and celebrate the signing of this MOU. We're very pleased to be in the town of Lincoln, not just to be physically located here, but to be in a town that really puts agriculture first, and that's something special. And certainly that's the business we're in, and we're happy to share that with you. When we talk about ourselves, we talk about ourselves as being in the business of economic development. So economic development in horticulture. So through innovation, we are supporting the growth and prosperity of horticultural producers. So the fruits, vegetables, wine, flowers, trees that are grown here, but also the rest of the sector, so the input suppliers, the technologies that support this growth. So when we talk about the technologies, this can be, you know, our engineering, our passamento units that Central Fabricating down the road is building and selling, or it could be a new pear variety that the Vineland Growers Co-op is selling across Canada. So that's why we're here. We're very happy to be here. We're very happy to have the support of the town, and in signing this MOU, we look forward to what we're going to be doing together in future. So if you want to say anything, Darby?
Sure. I just want to echo some of the things that Tanya said. It's exciting for me as a research scientist to be here in front of you today. It's a rare opportunity to get to work in a real-world classroom like we'll get to do here with Lincoln. I tend to work on the horticultural side of tree production, and that's one of the things we're really excited about partnering with Lincoln on in the future is more green design, sustainable design, and we're excited at the prospect of working with you guys on things like the Prudence development and anywhere else we can lend support in the future. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to give the councillors just a moment I'll just see if there's a question or two, because this is quite different. Dr. McGrath, your research in trees, and I'm assuming that includes rootstock of maybe other varieties than the trees that we see along our roadsides. Is that the case? I mean, would you be looking at rootstock for agricultural? Mm-hmm.
It depends on where the stakeholders see the requirements for us. Right now, we're not doing any work on that directly, but we see lots of opportunity in supporting the needs of the growers where they're going in terms of fruiting crops. That's absolutely something we can support in. One of the things that we've been talking a lot with Lincoln and other cities about is, you know, strategies to improve urban forestry and tree survival. And we're lucky that we're located in Lincoln and that everyone is so open-minded about research on the ground and working on us with some of those things. So, you know, we're excited to work with you guys and see where we can support that.
Excellent, and we are as well. Councillors, any questions? There being none, Councillor Brunet, if you would join me. Mr. Kirkopoulos. Nice to meet you. Okay. So I sign here.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. All right, Mr. CAO, I see that you're going to, you have a few remarks to make, and I apologize that I didn't go down to that line. But I think that the council would appreciate hearing what you have to say, because I know that you were working with Dr. Darby McGrath quite extensively on this, if you wouldn't mind.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I mean, I can provide some comments, but I think you did capture most of the comments with respect to Vineland Research and Innovation Center. This is the third partnership that we've established with what I like to call an innovation and education industry partner. Vineland Research was one of the first organizations that I sat down with when I joined the town of Lincoln a little over 3 years ago. I thought they were one of those kind of unsung heroes, one of those amazing organizations we have in our community, and an organization that we needed to partner with. So it's taken us some time. We've worked collaboratively on a number of initiatives together. As I said, this is the third such partnership that we've signed, the third such MOU, the others two being with Brock University and Niagara College. And I think in a lot of ways, it does start to identify Lincoln really as a center of educational innovation, a center of agricultural research, and a number of other, I think, initiatives and important elements that will help us move forward. I think, as Dr. McGrath said, when you look at what we're doing, when you look at some of the initiatives, we become a real-world classroom for scientists, for researchers, and I think this will, like Brock has and Niagara College, will continue to yield, I think, positive benefits for the town.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on now to recognition and achievements. There is nothing formal this evening, but I do want to acknowledge our Regional Councillor Rob Foster's in the audience tonight. Thanks very much, Rob, for attending. I have a motion to approve council minutes. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor McPherson. Approve the minutes of the following meetings of council minutes of January 28th, 2019. Madam Clerk, do you have a dark inked pen? I have red. I shouldn't be using red. Thank you very much. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion is carried. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest? There being none, we have no delegations this evening. We have no correspondence this evening. And we move on to 11 and the recommendations from standing committees. Are there any comments? Do any council members have any comments on the items 11.1 through to 11.4? First one being Committee of the Whole, budget minutes of January 30th. Planning and Economic Development Committee minutes of February the 11th. And Community Services and Infrastructure Committee minutes of February 13th. I just want to point out that on page 19, regarding the motion CSI 2019-08 regarding Niagara Waste Collection Services, there was the amendment that was made in the removal of item number 2. And the Committee of the Whole budget minutes of February 13th. Nothing there. All right, I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor Russell. Approve the following recommendations from standing committees. Committee of the Whole budget minutes of January 30th, 2019. Planning and Economic Development Committee minutes of February the 11th, 2019. Community Services and Infrastructure Committee minutes of February 13th, 2019. Committee of the Whole budget minutes of February 13th, 2019. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? None opposed. The motion is carried. We're moving on now to reports of municipal officers. And I'm going to ask Councillor Foster to come forward. He's asked to speak on a matter, I'm assuming it's the MPCA, Councillor Foster? Not specifically? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to get used to the way you guys do things now, and I did think I had a standing spot to come and talk at our town council, so I will get this figured out with Julie as we're going on, so.
Well, just the only thing you have to remember is that you're welcome. You're welcome. So-
Okay, I'm gone.
No, I mean, you're welcome to be here.
Yeah, there's been a few things going on at Niagara Region. I don't know if any of you read newspapers or any media or anything else like that, so so I thought I would talk about a few items of interest this evening. I'm going to start out just talking briefly about the NPCA. The single biggest thing with the NPCA these days is the fact that we have a brand new committee in place that currently is governing. I happen to be on what's referred to as the governance committee within the NPCA board. We're working on a variety of things within that particular committee to look at restructuring as to how the NPCA is really working. And we've got basically everything on the table with that particular committee. You know, the overall structure of committees, the overall CAO position, deputy CAO position, etc. There's a number of things that, as we've been examining the NPCA, have been a little unclear. So, and there's definitely some issues there. Most of what we're talking about is HR and legal in nature these days. So, I can't speak because of confidence on a number of things, but suffice it to say that changes are coming, and we'll be moving forward as soon as we can. There is an NPCA meeting tomorrow. I'm chair of corporate services at the region, so I have that committee meeting that I have to chair, and Mayor Easton will be at that particular committee meeting as well, I think tomorrow, correct? So anyway, as far as the NPCA goes, stay tuned. There's going to be more coming. The region, it seems like it's a lawsuit every second day that we're now seeing in the media. Just remember that with this, and you can take some comfort that basically anybody can sue for anything that they want. And so we shall see as the dust settles what actually everything is going to look like in the future. So both Sandra and I have been, or Mayor Easton, excuse me, and I have been in a number of meetings talking about these issues, making sure that we know and understand exactly what's going on, understanding all the legal ramifications that are involved with things, and all the HR matters that are being dealt with. This may surprise you, the media doesn't get everything right all the time, but the problem is that because it's HR and legal in so many differing ways, it's very difficult to either A, correct, or B, even get into a discussion about it. So just to let you know that. I wanted to talk briefly about waste management. You had Catherine here at Public Works meeting back some time ago. They've been doing the tour around through municipalities within Niagara. There have been some municipalities that have put forward their views on the changes that are being discussed. I'm assuming that Town of Lincoln will also be providing some guidance or some views as well. The interesting thing is that the big one seems to be garbage bags every week or every second week. That one, there's mixed bag as far as results that have come back through. There have been studies done, it comes out like 48% either way, and 4% of people basically saying they don't know. So it's kind of a mixed bag on the results that are coming back with that. Emterra continues to have issues within the region of Niagara. Was at Public Works meeting this morning. There's some general unhappiness from municipalities when it comes to garbage collection. I'm suggesting to you that our garbage collection, even though we've had some interesting times in the last couple months, mostly weather and nature that have caused most of our grief, but there are some significant problems that have been going on in other municipalities, particularly some of the bigger ones. A lot of the equipment that Emterra has been breaking down. They're going towards the end of their contract. And so there hasn't been a ton of investment being made in their capital items, their trucks, etc. We had a discussion today away from council, but in Thorold, you know, like the guys that are actually running the trucks are not doing good things with garbage and how they're handling it, type of thing. So suffice it to say, this is another file folder that's going to be open for a little while, and you know, as we get a real handle on it, let me know if you're hearing any significant problems going on within the town. I was at Rotary Club this morning, and I had a couple saying that there was one of the recyclings was missed down in Vineland last week, but generally speaking, I have not been hearing of the same level of problems that we have been having. So, but please, if you hear anything, let me know. Let's talk about budget. The region, first of all, the obvious question that somebody's going to say is, oh, what's it like being at the region, Rob? The size of the region is so dramatically different than the town of Lincoln. I think that's the single biggest thing that I have learned since I've got involved with the region. We're dealing with budget items that, you know, things that are coming on board that are twice the complete budget of the town of Lincoln. I mean, like, and this comes down to like, you know, waste, like the water, wastewater. We had a long discussion today about the Burgoyne Bridge. Again, I mean, that's a $100 million bridge. I mean, you know, these are the types of things that municipalities on their own can't afford to do, and you need the size of the region to go and deal with some of these things. So we're looking at 5.8% as the operations budget. That was the starting point. We sent back to the police Their budget at our last budget meeting, they came in at 6.5%, which was well over the guidance. I believe that they're going to be coming back with a somewhat better figure, which will be of benefit to all of us. The NPCA budget got sent back as well. I really don't see that changing when it comes back, but we shall see. They actually fit within the guidelines that were issued by the region. Just a quick comment for a lot of you guys who are new to Lincoln Council. I can tell you that the whole concept and the financial management that's being followed within the town of Lincoln over many years now, and that is making sure that you have your debt ratio correct, making sure that you have your reserves correct, making sure you have a solid rate stabilization within the municipality. All of these things, you know, we take for granted. The region isn't quite in as good a shape with that. It's very clear that a number of the things, including stabilization accounts, those types of things have not been particularly well taken care of. I had a discussion with Commissioner Harrison today. As a for instance, the rate stabilization for the region should be at about $44 million, okay? Right now it's currently at $23 million, so it's about half of what it should be. And by the way, that's based on best practices within the province of Ontario. So there's things like that have to be looked at, and we're going to be going through that as part of our corporate services review this upcoming year. And just the last thing is that we have passed the water and sewer rates, or at least we're recommending those at this point. And it's 5.1% this year with that, but it's going to be 5% over the next 9 years. So that's going to be a big hit to the town of Lincoln. You're going to have to take a good step back and take a look at the rates and make sure again that the policies and the processes that we put in place here in the town are capable of absorbing that and how you're going to deal with it. So and that's it. That's my discussion for this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Foster. And I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Are there any questions?
Oh, I do have a question. The first question,
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Patrick. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got me.
I have Patrick.
He's
Oh,
next.
you're on.
He's next.
It's okay.
He
I've
can
got
wait.
it. I never seem to press hard enough on this.
No.
No, now that
No, that's not an option.
you were soliciting questions, you will now have questions. Councillor McPherson.
So thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Just a comment to Councillor Foster. Thank you for coming. You know, I think this is important for us to be hearing what's going on at the region. We've not, as you know, being on this council for many years, we've not always had a good, strong communication connection with the region. And the fact that you're here, and I know you were trying to get here in the last month, is fantastic. You know, hope that you feel as though at any council meeting you can come and participate with us. I know you're deep into things like budget and that, and probably not moving, you know, Lincoln-specific agenda items forward at this particular time, but I certainly look forward to working with you on things that Councillor Mikulik and I have out in the East End, and getting together with you on that. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you, and just to let you know that I do have a meeting set up with the Public Works leadership next week to go through a number of items that are Town of Lincoln focused. I met with Mr. Kirkopoulos and Mayor Easton and Mr. Graham back a few weeks ago, and I have a very good idea of the items that are of importance to the municipality. And I was also able to make sure that, you know, we have a good understanding of an approach that we need to follow with this. I'm sort of an old hand at the town of Lincoln. I'm a brand new hand at the region of Niagara and how to get things done. So part of this is getting to know and understand who the people are, and to try and make sure that that I'm able to bring those things forward. And there are some things that we may be able to do sooner than later at the region. I'm just amazed. I was driving out of St. Catharines. Was at the Ice Dogs game on Sunday afternoon, and there's another light going up in St. Catharines at a place that I think is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, how it ever got warrants to put a light up there is beyond me. So, you know, again, these are the types of things that we're going to have to know and understand, and how to make our case for a number of these things. And so, you know, for instance, with I know Mr. Pachariva and I have had a number of discussions on important lights within the Beamsville area here. So those are the types of things that I'm going to be pushing for, and we'll see how it goes. So anyway, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. And now we have Councillor Pachariva.
Thanks, Your Worship. Robert, nice to see your smiling face. Thanks for coming. And, you know, I'm hearing you on the radio. I'm reading about you in the paper, so keep up the good work. You might be an old hand here, a new hand there, but the silent hand can get a lot of work done, so keep it up. Question. I heard this morning, with all the shenanigans going on at the region and all of these suits, and you had mentioned before about the difference in the budgets. 1% here is $150,000. 1% at the region is $2.5 million. Oh, well, okay, so knowing what's going on, if you add up all of those lawsuits, you're looking at $5 million. And be it a lawsuit against the region or a lawsuit against the NPCA, it comes out of the same pocketbook. And knowing that there isn't a reserve to fight these nefarious things, you know, that might have an impact. And then you've got the mayor of Welland trying to get the Forks Road Bridge downloaded to the region that was given to Welland in 2000. So because they don't have their financial house in order, doesn't mean the region needs to take that on and possibly cannibalize some of the projects, 19th Street, Main Street in the East End, that we're looking to do. So I'd ask that you keep up on that and be diligent.
There's a report coming into Corporate Services tomorrow. It's the first report on that bridge situation that you're talking about. I can't comment on the finances of Welland. I really don't care one way or the other, to be quite honest. I think it was, personally, I'm not in favor of what they're trying to do, and I can tell you is that the general feeling around the horseshoe is that this isn't going to fly, what they're trying to do. I did think it was interesting today is that the same argument was attempted on Burgoyne Bridge, because I guess it was owned by the province at what time. So somebody thought, well, you know, maybe the province should be paying for part of that. No. Burgoyne Bridge is owned by the region. That's our issue. That's our move forward within that. So I think, yeah. Sorry, your other. I was going to say something else. You went on for another comment there.
You kind of covered it, though.
Okay.
Okay, very good, thank you. Councillor Russell.
Councillor Foster, nice to see you again. I have a couple questions for you. The first was when you mentioned the increase of the budget to the Niagara Regional Police. Did that also encapsulate an increase of manpower within the police force?
Yes, there was a small increase in manpower that was going on with it. And there was also, there's a number of programs that they're wanting to bring in, and I know Mayor Easton has been one pushing it, as well as the community policing types of things. Those things aren't on the chopping block at this point within what they're doing. Frankly, the last council seemed to spend a lot of time, even the committees like the police, they were taking monies that were there for capital and they were transferring it in and using it to pay for operations. That is not a sustainable model that can be followed, and the police have become sorely aware of that. So they're trying to make some changes to that. This is a budget shift around year for them. I would suggest to you, however, they're going to come in at a better number when this is all said and done. I know what I was going to mention for Councillor Patriva. Sorry, Adam. But the 1% at the region is $3.5 million, okay, versus our what is it, 120,000 here in town. So just to give you an idea of sizing of stuff there. So sorry about that.
That's okay. Next question. I know it's very, very early in your tenure there, but it's something that's been a hot topic in Lincoln for years. Is it still, or is there still potential for early discussions about re-examining the truck allowances through town centers, in particular ours in Lincoln, to maybe rethink that Bartlett cut to see if we can open that up for trucks down the road?
At this point in time, actually, Mary Easton is probably a better person to be talking to about that. She's been deeply involved with meetings with the province, and the mayors have been doing a great job of pushing our issue forward with that. What I am seeing and what I'm hearing is that there's some real positive movements that are going on here. So, again, let's just wait for that one as it's going on. But it is when you're looking at the priorities of West Niagara, the north-south truck route remains one of the top ones. And obviously the West Lincoln Hospital, when we're talking mayors and regional councillors, that remains a very important one for us as well. So.
Okay. Last question. Do you have any updates on some of the safety concerns revolving around the Burgoyne Bridge and what might be happening to help prevent some of the tragic events there in the past?
There's a report coming forward to us about doing some changes, adding netting, that type of thing. That's going to be a fascinating discussion as we go through it. We're going to wait to see the reports that are coming back to us on that. I'm not particularly a person that's in favor of making any changes to the bridge. And I have a number of reasons why, which I'll talk about when we get into that at the region. But it is very unfortunate that that we have seen some of the tragedies that we have there, and we'll have to see what we can do without costing another $4 million. So.
Thank you very much, Councillor Russell. And now we have Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Through you to Councillor Foster, thank you for being here tonight. All good discussion. I think some of my questions have been answered. I had a question around the Burgoyne Bridge as well. Do you have a timeline on the report coming in on that?
Not sure.
No? Okay. I only have a couple questions left. Regarding the NPCA. So, the board is now, 74 days in to your 90-day term? Approximately. I'm wondering, do you know what will happen at 90 days? Will you be forming a new board, or?
The current thinking and where we're at with things is that we'll likely be asking for an extension to go and complete the work that we're doing. We want to, first of all, we have a CAO committee that's been done, a CAO recruitment committee, and we have the governance committee. And both of them are pretty strong committees that are going on at this point, so we'd like to see that through. The next stage is going to be having a discussion at the region as to how these positions are going to be filled in the future. Really, in the end, and there's been a bit of cart before the horse with some municipalities. The region is going to have to be the one that makes some foundational decisions on this, and then the municipalities will have a good discussion about it after that. So, but that's coming. Like that, my expectation is that we're going to do the exact same thing as you guys, get the budget out of the way, and try and get ourselves to a position where we can start focusing on some of these other issues.
Okay, very good. And it all takes a lot of time. It's not
Sure
going to
does.
happen overnight. Didn't get like that overnight. So it's going to take some, a lot of work, a lot of
Yeah.
heavy lifting.
I've been, I've been disappointed in actually some of the behind-the-scenes discussions. I have been attending a lot of meetings on the NPCA, all of them public. I can also tell you is that I have been personally taking time and effort around this governance committee thing or committee to make sure that I'm as well informed as I can possibly be. Been reviewing a number of conservation authorities on how they're set up and running. Brad Clark from Stony Creek, he's a councillor in the city of Hamilton, is the one who's chairing that committee. And Brad is a policy wonk. And it's actually a very good combination of people that are involved with this. So, and actually I'm really enjoying it too. Like as much as we're not happy about some of the stuff that we're trying to fix, it's actually kind of neat being into this and actually working towards coming up with good solutions. So,
Very good. Thank you very much for your comments and for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. And we have Councillor Pachariva.
Thanks, Your Worship. I clicked the button off when I had one more question. Just question, Rob, about corporate services and the governance review and that. Any idea of when the region will be doing the call out to its standing committees? Culture, active transportation, things like that.
the region is going through a review of all of its committees. The Sancton report is coming in shortly as well. My expectation is there's going to be a significant revamping of the committees. Part of the budget the other night, there was 2 items that were set aside. One is for the culture. The other one that was set aside was for Smarter Niagara. By the way, that's one that bothers me. Part of that process is some of the community improvement program monies and things like that I think have been beneficial to the town of Lincoln. And in fact, I think we can show ourselves as the town of Lincoln as being a good example of how those things have worked well. But the previous council spent a lot of time going through and reviewing value for money, et cetera, and came up with answers that I didn't happen to agree with. So we shall see.
Okay, good.
But some of these things are going to be put on the side for the time being.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks very much, Rob. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
We'll move on to 12.1. I put this on the agenda because I wanted to make sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Yes, I have a motion moved by Councillor Renchima and seconded by Councillor Pachariva that council receive the update from Regional Councillor Foster on February 19th, 2019. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? None opposed. The motion is carried. Sorry. Okay. All right. 12.1, I put this on because I wanted to make sure that we had sufficient transparency around the process. On the 28th of February, a motion will be coming forward to council. I checked with the clerk on Friday. to extend the interim committee of the NPCA. So we'll see what happens with that. If the determination is made that the interim board will not have their time extended, then the region will send a letter to the municipality advising us of that. And I'm still unclear about who's going to determine whether they will be public members or council members. And I say that because there has been, and I think that Councillor McPherson probably heard discussion about this when he was on the board, it is going to be important for us to have a well-balanced board. So if everybody chooses representatives independent of each other and we end up with 12 auditors on the committee, nobody with any interest or organizational skills around, the conservation elements, if we end up with no planners, so this is really the question. So how they're going to do that is going to be, the recommendation to get that right is going to be really part of the going forward here. So I just wanted to let you know that this group, the interim board just have a huge amount of work to do. It's brutal what they're working with, because they're having to really clear away a lot of questionable practices that have gone on for some time, and so it's going to take some time. I think they spent the first month dealing with the board members who weren't reelected and felt they should be on the board. So it does slow things down considerably. I also wanted to report that very soon, possibly next week, Councillor Russell, that myself and the mayors of Grimsby and West Lincoln will be going to meet with MP Vance Badaway to talk with him about the north-south corridor, to see if there's, but he's also interested in any other infrastructure money that we have, so we're doing that. And again, I can't tell you the exact date, but the arrangements have been made for the regional engineer, Carolyn Riel, to meet with us as well. So, and that's an internal discussion, so we'll be doing that. And Councillor Pachariva, if you have anything that you would like to say about the qualities of the Culture Committee and the benefits, please do that. It is on the Corporate Services Committee agenda for tomorrow, because that and the Smarter Niagara are two committees that have been recommended to be eliminated. I was quite surprised. Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be very beneficial. So I don't think there's anything else at the moment. Yes, Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. And you know what? And that was one of the fears last year of the Culture Committee, is that it was lumped in with planning, and it was looking at all of the different planning funding keys that they had, and there wasn't really the same metrics or measurables, and that's why we actually we had the old report that the amount that culture contributes economically to the region, and we're getting it updated to say, this is a necessary committee. We were, one of the cultural capitals of Canada, Niagara was, and to just go away from this makes no sense whatsoever. So,
Well, the sentiment, your sentiments are definitely shared. So if you have information that you want to forward to me, I will do my best to represent what your experiences were. It's a new day, and there was a tone that was certainly evolving at the region to eliminate a lot of these things, and so it's all good going forward. So I'll do my best. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regards to the extension of the MPCA board, can we expect in that request a full report on certainly why we would want to extend that, what has been done to date possibly, and obviously there's going to be a length of time that they're asking for an extension, but would we expect that, or is it just simply the MPCA interim board has asked and with little detail?
Yeah, you know, I wish I could tell you more. I think we should assume that there should be a report, otherwise it would be pretty hard to make any kind of a decision. And I'll know about that on Friday, so I can have a look at and see if there is a report. It would be a public report, so I could send that to you. So, and if I fail to do it by Monday, just send me a note. Because you may have some comments on that. All right, councillors, we're moving on now to item 12.2, and this is report AD, right here. I'm sorry, here we go. I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell and seconded by Councillor Pachariva to receive and file the verbal update provided by Mayor Sandra Eastern regarding the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority NPCA Board. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. All right, now we'll move to 12.3. No, we're going to go to 12.2, and it's the pregnancy and parental leave that's in the report, and it's on page 24. Madam Clerk, do you have any comments? Is there anything of note on this? It is pretty straightforward, but.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. This is just a very straightforward report that needs to be adopted by March 1st, 2019. It has to do with the Municipal Act and the policy with respect to the pregnancy and parental leaves of councillor members. Our HR coordinator had put this report together, and it's something that all municipalities are passing at the moment. So it's very straightforward, though. So I can answer any questions that you may have.
All right, I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Mikulik? No, Councillor Reimer. Receive and file report AD-03-19 as information around the changes to the Municipal Act 2001 regarding council vacancies arising as a result of pregnancy or parental leaves. Questions? Pleasure on the motion? None opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll move on now to item 12.3 and LS 0319. It is the Council and Staff Relations Policy Report. Just a moment, where is that? Who is, beg your pardon? Who's going to report on this, 12.3?
So, through you, Madam Mayor, that was a report that we handed out and under a separate cover on Friday. So all council should have a copy of this at your stations. It also was sent out through email and attached to the agenda. I can speak to it if you would like. So again, this is part of the updates to the municipal legislation. As you know, this received royal assent on May 30th under the Bill 68 Modernizing Ontario's Municipal Legislation Act 2017. This was briefly touched on during council orientation with our Integrity Commissioner. And again, all municipalities are adopting this by March the 1st to have a council and staff relations policy in place, just to basically provide some guidelines around what's appropriate and what's not. So I can take any questions that you may have.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. And Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So it's nice to see this in writing, actually, because over the years, this is my third term, we discuss this kind of every year, you know, what's appropriate, what's not, what steps should we be following. We have questions when we're relating with staff, who do we talk to first, and we always kind of end up with the same answers, and they all make sense. But I think as we're skipping along through the year, sometimes we forget what we should be doing. And so it's really good to have it down on paper, that we can just, something we can refer back to. It promotes positive relationships and smooth operations and positive outcomes, so appreciate that, thank you.
All right, councillors, I'm going to read this motion just so that we make this correct. I have a motion moved by councillor Timmers and seconded by councillor Reimer. Receive report LSO 319 regarding a draft policy for council and staff relations for the town of Lincoln, and approve Appendix A to Legislative Services Report LSO 319, a draft policy for council and staff relations. Any comments? Pleasure on the motion? None opposed, the motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Njima. And report LSO 419. And this is the Committee of Adjustment Appointment Report. I have a motion moved by Councillor Njima, seconded by Councillor Pachariva. Approve citizen appointments to the Town of Lincoln's Committee of Adjustment as outlined in confidential Appendix A of Legislative Services Department Report LS-04-19, and following approval from council, make the recommended names for appointments public. Madam Clerk, if you wouldn't mind telling us how we should handle this.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you. So basically, this was a report brought forward to explain how we got to this point. So once we get council approval, what will happen is that we will get in contact with those individuals and then get their final consent and then make that public. So they're aware of the process. We've explained it to them throughout the interview process, and so this is just a formality to move forward to get council approval.
Very good. I must say, it's quite an impressive list of committee members. Are we talking about the names publicly at this time? No.
Not at this time.
Very good. Okay. Well, I guess there's nothing more to say. Your pleasure on the motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just had a question, not to speak to the appendix of the confidential names that we've received, but just more the process. So, you know, in the report, it spoke to, you know, through the process, if there was someone that wasn't selected to a particular committee, they would be notified that there might be other opportunities. So I guess my question, just being a former member of the Committee of Adjustments, and I haven't spoken to anyone, so I hope I'm not raining on Chair Timmers' parade or anything, but so certainly in the past term, we had 7 members on the Committee of Adjustment. There were 4 council members, Timbers, Thompson, Ringeman, and myself, and then 3 lay members in Simon, Fisher, and Struban, so a total of 7. One of the things that I felt worked really, really well with that was that it gave us an opportunity to work on a rotating basis. And you would say, well, big deal, but in the summer, it's amazing when there's the mayor's tournament and there's all these different events going on with the chamber, that it gives you a rotating basis so that you know that maybe you've got, you know, the month of May and June off, or you're on for May and June, but you're off for July and August, and it worked really good on a rotating basis. So I guess through you, Madam Mayor, to the Legislative Department, I just wondering if the number that we're at today is a reflection of that's it, that's all we got for, or we've whittled this down and we've decided on a number, because, and I realize, and I'm really glad that we're gonna go through the process, which I didn't get as an opportunity to have extensive training. But I can tell you, like when you come to some of those meetings and you've got a chamber full of people and it's a high tension, high profile event, and you have 2 people that don't show up, and now we're down from 5 to 3, that, I look at that as being a little bit problematic. So just wanted to comment on that, and maybe the clerk could give us some insight to that. Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So it was very clear in the interview process, Councillor Brunet, that the expectation is if you have committed to being on the Committee of Adjustment, your attendance is required for all meetings. It was very clear on what those meetings, when those meetings would be held, and for how long of a period of time. The other thing is the 5 individuals that we have selected have extensive knowledge in the Committee of Adjustment procedure. They are very aware of what's expected of them, and that was discussed during the interview process. They have committed to being in attendance. Also, the training that we will be providing them is different from the training that they've received in the past. So we're working with them very closely. The Legislative Services as well as the Planning Department will be providing extensive training to each member.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mikulik.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the clerk. Just curious, how many, do we know how many, we must know, how many people applied for one of these appointments?
Madam Clerk.
How many applicants?
Yeah, I believe it was 16 off the top of my head.
16?
Yeah, for some reason I believe it's that number. Yeah, we had a very good turnout and very well received.
So further to Councillor Brunet's point, did we discuss, so they're obligated, they're expected, what's the failure to participate or failure to attend? What's the consequences for not being able to attend?
Through you, Madam Mayor. It would be very similar. I mean, the 5 that is required is under the Planning Act. So we're meeting legislation, just to answer that question right off the bat. So under the Planning Act, there is a requirement of 5. So we are upholding that. And for those that don't attend, it goes down to our procedural bylaw. So, you know, if you've missed 3 meetings in a row, you are essentially have dismissed your opportunity to sit on that committee. Now, there would be extensive, you know, a reach out to that particular member, but yeah.
Okay. And is there any possibility to having, do we have in order, the next in line or substitutes or?
Yeah, I mean, we went through a criteria and it was based on a way of scoring on the answers themselves, just to make it fair across the board. And so we went with the 5 highest scoring. And those 5 highest scoring just happened to be very, very well informed about the process itself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, you're satisfied? All right, thank you. Well, I have a motion. And your pleasure on the motion. None opposed? The motion is carried. Oh, my goodness. Yes, this, Councillor Benjima, go ahead.
Okay,
Go
thank
ahead.
you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to say that I'm really happy to see that there's going to be a lot of professional development opportunities for the committee. I was on the committee for quite a few years, and there aren't a lot of opportunities for learning and professional development that come up on a regular basis. So I know that you're going to take care of that. The OCA conference, the Ontario Association of Committees of Adjustment and Consent Authorities conference, is always really well done, and there's always really good sessions to learn from there. That's what I found. So there were at one time we had a budget line for committee members to attend that. So hopefully we still have that, and I'd like to see that continue. And I found that our committee members were pretty enthusiastic about showing up. There may have been issues where people couldn't come, and that's where the 7 members came in handy. I think that 3 is a quorum and 3 can make a decision, but Councillor Brunet's point that 3 isn't necessarily ideal is valid too. So I'm excited about the process moving forward, and thank you for all the work that you put into it.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Councillor. All right, the motion is carried. We'll move on then to item 13, notice of motion. And Councillor Timmers, you have a notice of motion, I understand. Councillor?
Sorry, Mary Sin, I didn't have it in front of me. I was
That's all right. Are
waiting
you-
for it. Okay, I have it now.
Okay.
Yes, I do have a notice of motion. Would you like me to read the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, the motion is moved by myself and seconded by Diane Regima. Whereas a housing action plan provides municipalities with a framework that allows them to implement strategies intended to create and develop market, affordable and non-market housing units. And whereas Niagara Region is currently involved with and working on such a plan with various government agencies. And whereas it is important to develop and lay out steps to creating a housing action plan and to utilizing accurate housing research. And whereas there needs to be an identification of barriers, opportunities, and tools to create housing in a community. And whereas affordable housing has become a large issue across municipalities in Niagara and the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Therefore, be it resolved that staff report back by the end of 2019 with a report that focuses on affordable housing, specifically what is required to develop a strategy, and that this could include but not be limited to a focus on affordable housing initiatives through engagement with key stakeholders, data gathered to complete an inclusionary zoning assessment report, and the framework needed to develop an affordable housing strategy. And that staff work with and reach out to Niagara Region to facilitate any and all long-range planning work that is required, and that a working group of interested councillors be struck to continue gathering information on this matter.
Thank you. Would you mind passing that up, Councillor? So, Madam Clerk, we're not discussing, it's a notice of motion, so we're not discussing the motion. However, I need a point of clarification. In the piece here where it speaks to the working group being struck, I have had 3 councillors come forward to indicate that they would be interested, and there was one from each ward, which I thought was very opportune, and they were Councillor Regima first, and then Councillor Timmers and Councillor Brunet, and so I took the liberty of speaking with Councillor Mikulik, and he has also agreed that he would sit on the committee. So that would give us someone from each ward. So, we're calling it a working group because we don't want to have, there may be times when we may want to have discussions, and we didn't want to make it another standing committee. So it is a working group, and we will bring reports back through planning and economic development. But it will be very interesting to see what happens here, because as you all know, we had Elizabeth Zimmerman speaking to us, and then today I met with Carol Frewer from Community Care of West Niagara. I think that our timing is very good on this. And then just to let you know that I have taken the mayor's prerogative, and I have asked Councillor Regima if she would chair the committee. And I did that because there's some other expertise on in the committee as well. And Councillor Timmers has worked for a number of years in this area, and we will need active members, but I was very pleased with the enthusiasm that came forward by members of council, and thank you very much. I'm very pleased that we're going to move forward. So, yes, please go ahead.
If there's councillors that have already been appointed and you've selected Councillor Regima to chair, I'm just wondering, just for the process portion of this, if we could just have a majority vote to add that to the motion, that we
Yes.
have added those individuals, and then we just can take that vote or amend the motion and put that at the end of who is sitting on that working group, that would be great.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I have to have a majority vote. All right, I've added the names as an amendment, moved by Councillor Regima and seconded by Councillor Pachariva. Your pleasure on the motion.
Could I just ask a
Did you want to
question?
make a comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Just regarding the motion and the report that we're requesting to come back at the end of 2019, I'm just wondering, do we need to note that the working group will be formed immediately? Does it read that way?
No, it says to be struck to
Yes.
continue.
Do we need to amend or make some note of when we will start our working committee?
I think that would be a good idea.
'Cause I
What is
really-
your,
yeah.
any objections to that? It was my understanding that we would be starting immediately.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
I will put the word immediately in there.
Okay, I just wanted it to be clear. I didn't want it to be till the end of the year, so.
Okay, well, since I've been freely writing on this, maybe Councillor Timmers, Councillor Regima, if you would initial it, and then I'll pass it down to Councillor Timmers. Okay, and the amendment was moved by Regima and seconded by Pachariva. Okay, if you wouldn't mind initialing that, Councillor Timmers. Yes, I sat, when I was thinking about all the different groups that the committee would want to invite in, really, it's quite significant. So I think this is going to be some excellent work for this term. All right, your pleasure on the motion, then we'll do that again. And the motion is carried, none opposed. All right, thank you. Thanks for that, Councillor. Are there any other notices of motion? We'll move on to item 14, motion to receive and file the council information package. And these are items 14.1 through 14.3. I don't know whether you have any questions or comments, so I'll just look at, there's quite a few items of correspondence in there, a lot of them relating to cannabis. And then we move on to the regional bylaw, item 14.1, that relates to the protection of children and vulnerable persons from exposure to outdoor secondhand smoke. And I just wanted to point out that we have to have a triple majority on this. And Madam Clerk, I wasn't sure if we had received a request for that yet. Not yet? Okay. And then we have item 14.2 being the regional report, vacancy program revisions to Ministry of Finance, and this has to do with the vacant unit tax rebates. And there was a consultation with local area municipalities on that. And when it was discussed at the region, I recall that some of those comments. However, I did not support the motion. Item 14.3. Yes, 14.3 is the municipal compliance report, and this is submitted by our fire service. I don't see the chief here tonight. The Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. Any questions about that? All right. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Mikulik and seconded by Councillor Timmers. Receive and file the following council information packages. Council information package January 25th, February 1st, and February 8th. Your pleasure on the motion. None opposed. The motion is carried. And I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson and seconded by Councillor, I'm sorry, but I can't read this. I don't know who's. Is it? I'm going to get you a stamp. I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson and, oh, it is McPherson, and seconded by Councillor Mikulik. My apologies. Under Section 239 of the Municipal Act, notice is hereby given that committee adjourned to closed session in order to, just a moment, this is not what I want. Just a moment. I did that. I did the council information package. Well, we have no correspondence. Okay, just a moment. We have one confidential item to consider this evening. And I have a motion. This is the motion moved by Councillor McPherson, seconded by Councillor Mikulik. Under Section 239 of the Municipal Act, notice is hereby given that committee adjourned to closed session in order to address item 16.1 on the agenda regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees as it pertains to the province of Ontario and provincial review. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer and seconded by Councillor Timmers. Receive and file update in closed session. Your pleasure on the motion? None opposed. The motion is carried. Okay. Now we're moving on to the approval of bylaws. We have 13 bylaws this evening. Three. It says 13. It says 13 with 3 in brackets. Yes, 3. Okay, I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell and seconded by Councillor Timmers that leave be given to approve the following bylaws: 2019-18, Animal Care and Control Bylaw, 2019-19, Discharge a Site Plan Agreement for Claimer, 2019-20-Z520, Zoning Bylaw Amendment for Claimer. Any questions? Pleasure on the motion? None opposed, the motion is carried. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunei and seconded by Councillor Pachariva that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2019-21, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held Tuesday, February the 19th, 2019, being read a first, second, and third time. That bylaw number 2019-21 be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Your pleasure on the motion? Motion is carried, none opposed. And we now have announcement by members. Councillor Brunei. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So
Too many things.
when Councillor Foster was here earlier this evening, he made a comment that he's still going through the process and understanding about our new agendas, and I guess I would echo those sentiments that I'm not sure if I'm in the right spot, because we don't really have those areas where we had councillor discussions, around the horseshoe. So if I'm offside, I apologize, but I just thought it would be a good opportunity. Councillor Foster did make a comment with regards to West Lincoln Hospital, so as the council representative for the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital Community Advisory Committee, I felt it would be appropriate to maybe make some discussions, make some comments with regards to all the comments that have been in the newspapers, with regards to the recent temporary OR closures that started this weekend, and everything else that's been going on. So if I may?
Yes, absolutely.
So the only thing I would say is that I've been part of that advisory committee for the last 4 years, and I would be suffice to say that for about 2.5 years, our committee felt it was almost like a lame duck committee, where we were there, we were present. It was formulated when Hamilton Health Sciences merged with West Lincoln, or West Lincoln merged with Hamilton Health Sciences, but for a long time, we probably looked in the mirror and said, okay, what are we really doing? But I can tell you that with all that's gone on during the election and through the fall, and then with the premier and the health minister coming out, and all the Save the Hospital, that our advisory committee has taken on another level. So I just wanted to share some of the things that we've been discussing and that we've been doing. So at one of our recent meetings about a month ago, the board, the Hamilton Health Sciences Board, and understanding that they're organizing and responsible for community care, in St. Peter's Hospital, McMaster Hospital, Joseph Brant, Juravinski. So it's a multi-webbed entity, and there are no board members from Hamilton Health Sciences that sit on any advisory board. Through our letter to the board and voicing the displeasure that our framework of our advisory board was not being taken seriously, the Hamilton Health Sciences Board has now come to our board saying they want to appoint a board member to sit on an advisory board. So I think that is huge. It's something that's never happened within Hamilton Health Sciences. So I think that's something that moving forward is going to be a voice and a pipeline to go back from the community, from the advisory board to Hamilton Health Sciences Board with a board member on our committee. So I wanted to report that. One of the things that also came up is that this advisory committee needs to be taking a lead role. Certainly the mayors have been front and center, but we have had 2 West Lincoln mayors that have changed in the recent election. So somewhat, Mayor Easton is a bit of on an island by herself as an only mayor with that continuity from before the election. So again, the advisory committee has decided that we are going to take a more active role in inviting the LIN to our board meetings as we move forward to report back on what the LIN is actually doing and have them coming to our board, so we're having more of a pipeline with the LIN, so we're in better continuity and understanding as to what's happening with the LIN and the Ministry of Health. And then also inviting the health minister to come to our board members so that we can really emphasize what we've already done at some of our meetings in Queen's Park, but through the advisory committee board. So that was one of the first things I wanted to say. There have been a number of emergency conference call meetings over the last 7 or 10 days. Every email that I get has an asterisk beside it to say that a lot of this is confidential, but I did want to just share, in light of the fact that a lot of this thing has been out in the press about OR and emergency nurses and the shortage. And I'm not here to speak on behalf of the CEO McIsaac or to take sides because there's a lot of mudslinging going on and people asking for McIsaac resignation and the fact that he hasn't done his job as the CEO of Hamilton Health Sciences. I'm not here to talk about that, but I just wanted to share some of the comments that I think I'm in a position to share with regards to the emergency meeting conference call that took place last week. So I just quickly throw out a couple of comments in terms of the current state, some short-term approaches and some long-term approaches in terms of recruitment. So just very, very quickly, we do not have a sustainable on-call model as a result of having too few nurses at West Lincoln Hospital. We need 10 to 12 to cover on-calls, and we don't have that right now. Hamilton Health Sciences would say, and I'm not here to take sides, but they would say that this has been an ongoing process, but it's been a national issue with recruiting. So they've taken some short-term approaches, and they've reached out through postings, through Operating Room Nurses Associations of Canada, RN Careers in Alberta, through LinkedIn, through Job Bank, through Canada, and they've accrued over 650 accumulative job views and 19 applications within the last 4 weeks. From a long-term approach, there is some work to do. They're doing some outreaching out in Alberta and Saskatchewan. From what I understand, and I'm certainly not a professional on healthcare in any way, but I'm told that on average it takes approximately 6 months to orientate and train an OR nurse. So this is a recruitment process. It's going to take time, but it's front and center. One could argue that why hasn't it been done? And Hamilton Health Sciences continues to say that it has been front and center, but it hasn't been happening quick enough. So. I guess I just wanted to make a comment that with all the things that have been going on and all the comments that have been in the newspapers and Mike Williscraft's editorial, that we have been very active in the background. So there are many things going on. I wanted to report on that. If I may, if I just change hats for a second, I just wanted to quickly make a couple of comments with regards to, as Chair of Infrastructure and Community Services, and on behalf of Deputy Chair Rinjima, you know, I've had the opportunity to get some emails sent to me over the last couple weeks, and I think we would all agree that probably for the month of November and December, we skated through the winter fairly lightly in terms of snow and ice, but certainly in the months of January and February, we're certainly feeling the wrath of it, and especially recently with facility closures and school closings. It puts pressure on a lot of people when it's inclement weather. But I just wanted to comment on behalf of, and I know Director Graham's left, but I was shared some information today from Ian Tasker, who's our transportation manager. He says that in an email to staff, he's been in the business for 25 years. He's never seen the comments that have been coming forward from the community where people are actually walking in the front door, coming down to Public Works, and wanting to thank someone in person for the work that's been occurring. So I just want to, it's never perfect. We're always going to have people that complain about cul-de-sacs or sidewalks. But under some pretty tough circumstances, I think our Public Works has been doing some yeoman's work. The other thing I wanted to just quickly comment on, again, as Chair of Infrastructure, is this morning there was a couple of announcements from Jillian, and then Carrie commented with regards to the recent announcement that we heard about for the $125,000 with regards to climate control. So climate change, rather. And certainly for any of the new councillors that weren't aware, last term of council, we got bombarded with a lot of shoreline protection, damage to Charles Daly Park. We put in for some funding. We received some very significant funding. But this is all about sustainability and resilience moving forward to make sure that we're properly aligned to be prepared for these next issues. And I think if anybody looked at that announcement, it's pretty remarkable to think there's 444 communities in Ontario, but this goes well beyond that scope. If Ms. Beatty's announcement was accurate, which I believe it to be, we're one of 59 in Canada that receive funding. 1 in 59 in Canada. So that's pretty remarkable, $125,000.
Certainly is. Councillor Brunet, I'm going to ask the CAO to comment on a couple of things, just in response to you. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thanks for the opportunity as well. And Councillor Brunet highlighted a couple of things that I wanted to speak to. One being the FCM announcement, and we'll share a little bit more tomorrow, but one of the additions you see in the budget is actually that 2-year contract for that individual, of which we're getting $125,000 being offset. So I'll preface my comments today for tomorrow as it relates to that specifically. But, to the councillor's point, a massive accomplishment, a huge thanks to Jillian and the team around her that helped pull this together. And that includes Matt, that includes Paul, that includes Carrie, a number of individuals that aren't here tonight. So I think it's important to highlight there was a lot of people that pulled together to do that, a massive accomplishment for us. We are not a large community, but we are one of 59, and there's 444 in Ontario. Multiply that by, I would suggest at least 10, and you get, I think, kind of the scope of what we've been able to do and accomplish. So kudos to council for their support in allowing us to do some of this innovative work. And yes, it costs a little bit of money, but at the end of the day, we've been able to secure $125,000. There is an FCM conference coming up May 30th to June 2nd of this year. Sustainability is one of those themes, and I know we've been talking about definitely from a staff level, and I know Mayor Easton has also spoken about attending FCM as a conference. I know in the past she has. As well. And so I think, the more we get out and actually see what others are doing, sometimes the better for us. So I did want to highlight that. And I think, although they're not here, I did want to also recognize, I think, the work that a lot of our operations staff have done definitely over the last number of weeks. I know, having dealt with multiple school closures for my own children, and I think the councillor, Chair Brunet, is absolutely correct. We will always get complaints. I just had one forwarded to me right now, specifically on snow clearing. But The fact that we've had, you know, an older lady come in and drop off gift cards to Tim Hortons, and then, you know, Ian's email that I received as well, come in and someone actually just want to say thank you. People are busy. They don't make time to come in to say thank you unless you've actually done a good job. And while I know this is a thankless job, and maybe rightfully so in some fashion, you know, I think it's important to celebrate, you know, as Councillor Brunet always says, celebrate some of those small wins and some of those small successes, because, you know, in the day and age of what we're doing, and Councillor Russell, you asked, you know, earlier about, you know, some other staff, you know, staff type thoughts and perspectives. These are the things that matter, and so I will continue trying to celebrate those as much as I can, but a sincere thanks to our frontline staff who do a lot of work every day.
Did you have a comment also about, you have another comment to make later. I'm going to move on. Councillor Njima, Councillor Russell had asked me if she could speak. She doesn't have the same notification at her place, so I'm going to ask her to speak next, and then you are next in the line.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So on behalf of the Chamber, I wanted to share with Council that it is supportive of the decision to opt in for the opportunity to have retail cannabis stores within the town of Lincoln, and is looking forward to the economic advantages that may come up down the road. I said I would share that with all of you. The breakfast with politicians the other day, Mayor Easton, Regional Councillor Foster, MPP Sam Oosterhoff, and Dean Allison all spoke very well and made thought-provoking points. David Brown was entertaining and lighthearted in humor, as always, as the MC. I saw positive social media discussion afterwards, particularly about Mayor Easton's points about photo radar possibly becoming a step that may help us assist with traffic control, and I'm looking forward to hearing that, more about that down the road.
Just put it on the budget for tomorrow.
And I recall at that one point there was some possible funding opportunities for that, so that may still be out there. And I want to thank all staff that attended at the Politicians' Breakfast. I hear regularly, not just from the business community, but from the community at large, very positive comments about the interactions with staff here at the town of Lincoln, and I think we all have a very good reason to be proud of them. And also, I want to let you know that on the 27th of February, there's a Business After 5 being held at the Bench and Balance Elite Spa, and that's across from Sam Oosterhoff's office, right in the No Frills Plaza. On the same, yeah, so upstairs in the No Frills Plaza. I'm going to forward to you an email from Anna Murray about how you can register for that. There's a limit of 40 people for the registration. There's no fee, but you do have to register so that she will have some idea how many people will attend. And these events are for members and guests. And as council members, some of you may not know that you are considered members of the Chamber of Commerce for attending these events. So I'm going to forward that to you. Registration closes February 25th at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This comment's not exactly exciting or nice, but Councilor Njima and I had heard through the campaign process of a very anecdotal, but some critter populations that can continue to grow in Ward 1 in particular. Recently, it seems to be festering a little bit more on social media on some groups. So we've discussed it, and we discussed it with Director Graham tonight to try to just create some sort of a strategy to at least pinpoint the information. So I believe starting sometime this week, they're going to start requesting that any concerns from the public about any rodents or growing populations of rodents in their area to be brought forward to the info@lincoln.ca website, or sorry, email address with the name of the individual, the address of the individual, and also any information regarding the history of whatever the issue was with their particular household or experience. That way, Director Graham can at least start pinpointing to see if there's a specific cause that might be related to the town, and then create an action plan based on that. So that's something that, again, we've been discussing in Ward 1, and hopefully we can get it under control relatively soon.
Well, when they start digging, it's always a challenge, isn't it? Anything further, Counselor? Okay. Mike, I think you have another comment? Oh, my apologies. Counselor Timmer slipped in there.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Just a very quick announcement that this Saturday, February 23rd, is the coldest night of the year walk. You can register at 4 o'clock, be walking at 5:15, and you can walk for 2, 5, or 10 kilometers. Everyone is welcome, and if you're not able to go out and walk, you could sponsor someone who is walking. So you could join a team, come and walk yourself, or sponsor someone that is. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, I
Counselor.
should say it's at Grimsby High School location. February
We have a
20,
team. Yeah, we do have a
February
team.
23rd, it's this Saturday? So,
We do have a team.
oh, sorry, I thought you said a date. Yes, we do have a team. I'm off.
That's okay.
Mayor
No,
Easton
you're good.
is our team leader, and I'm not sure who else is on the team. I'm on the team, but I don't know who else has joined. You're welcome to join us.
I can do it this year.
Excellent. Okay. There isn't anybody else on the board.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thanks for the reminder of the other update I wanted to give council, and that is with respect to the District School Board of Niagara and the finalization of the purchase of the property for the new West Niagara Secondary School. As some members of council will recall, the province had granted approximately $40 million to the school board in order to do new construction. What was remaining and was the subject of an appeal that was also resolved was land acquisition, and so there was an announcement last week on land acquisition, and approximately, I believe it was approximately $10 million that was granted to the school board to finalize that purchase. So good news from the perspective of the school and now it being able to move forward. And I guess the other good news is that we will be before committee at some point in the near future as we start to lay out and map out a path forward, specifically as it relates to the BDSS precinct, which will be another significant and massive project for council in terms of that undertaking.
And I would like to add some comments to this because it fits in with Councillor Brunee's comments as well. We should, I believe that MPP Sam Oosterhoff made some comments on Friday as part of his presentation about announcements that are forthcoming. He wasn't specific. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see if the hospital is that announcement, how much money is actually coming our way. And so the whole concept of what constitutes a hospital, what must be in the hospital, and how will all the programs that have been announced be accommodated. And so the idea of having a health hub as part of the BDSS site is something that's going to become quite critical for us because they're, at the present time, hospitals house a lot of services that aren't essential to the acuity that's there, but they certainly needed to be provided somewhere in the community. And there are many public health programs that aren't provided here, and I'll just identify mental health support as one of them. So the mayors, Councillor Brunei, have requested a meeting with the advisory committee, and Andrea is making those arrangements. But also, I have spoken at the community group that the physicians attend. I have spoken to them about this concept of the health hub. It's a little bit short-sighted, I think, around the hospital corridor. It was denied at the last meeting in Grimsby, so I don't know what they are thinking about in terms of the land acquisition, but I'm sure that there will be some very interested developers who will be picking up a lot of land quickly as soon as an announcement like that is made. So this is going to be important to us. Carol Frewer came to see me today. I've had other people, Mike has had other people, I'm sure you have as well, who are very interested in this concept of having a central hub. And I'm encouraging people where they have those ideas or where their groups have ideas that they want to be involved, that they write letters of interest to us, because I think that they're going to be important. And so, you know, we had quite a process that went on for the public participation in the planning process for Prudhome's, and certainly it is one that I would look to provide us with a similar quality of public engagement. So these are all some very interesting things that we talked about here tonight, very interesting. So, thank you very much. And we'll have a motion to adjourn at 9:29. Is it, oh, it's 8:29. It's early. Like 9, it's early. Moved by Councillor Pachuriba, seconded by Councillor Brunet, that council on February 19th, 2019 be adjourned. Pleasure on the motion. Motion is carried, none opposed.